your shame, you know you wear it inside. Run away with all your lies, run away in your disguise, you know you don't fool me. You blame me for your boredom, you blame me for your pain.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you for joining us on a brand new episode of Paul Mash TV. We're glad that you could join us today, and as always, we're getting good reviews, and we want to thank you for that. And if you haven't had a chance to contact us yet, there's many ways to do that. Email us at capital P, lowercase MASHTV, all one word, at gmail.com, and you'll always hear back from us. And go to Facebook, facebook.com/Paul Mash TV. And feel free to like the page and join in on our conversations. We'd love to hear from you there. You can follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Paul Mash TV official. And if you're watching this right now on YouTube, just click that subscribe button right there, and you'll keep up with all the latest episodes whenever they become available. And we hope to hear from you soon. So, and if you missed any of that, don't worry about it. We have a closing credit screen, and that'll recap everything I just said. So we hope that you'll stick around for that. From Fort Worth, Texas today, we have Craig Murphy, very talented country music singer. And we know you're going to love this guy. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, we'll have a message from ClickJam as usual. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Well, hello, and it's time for interview time. And with me from Fort Worth, Texas, we got Craig Murphy. Thanks for joining us, Craig.
Well, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, no problem. It's good to have you on here. Why don't you start off by telling everybody exactly when you started being a musician? I mean, have you always wanted to be a musician? Everybody has their own story, so let's hear your story on that.
Well, I'm a member of Edge Park United Methodist Church in Fort Worth, Texas, and I was in the congregation on one Sunday morning, and the worship service had ended. And as I was getting up out of my pew, there was a gentleman to my right, and he looked at me and he said, almost demanding, he said, why don't you start coming to choir practice? Every Wednesday night we have choir practice at 7:30, and I think you need to show up. And so I thought to myself, wow, I wonder why this guy's asking me this. You know, I'm not a singer. You know, I'm not really, a musician or a singer. So I thought it was odd that he would just come up to me and tell me that. So I went on home and thought about it for several days and nights. And I thought to myself, I am free on Wednesday nights, so why not? So I ended up going to choir practice. And I got a great deal of fulfillment and enjoyment with it, and got to meet a lot of new people. And I got to sing beside this man. They set me beside this man who was a retired Air Force officer, and he's a wonderful man. He's still around. He still goes to the church. He's still in the choir, and Radian Richmond, if I didn't say his name, and I learned that I could harmonize very well with him. He had a great voice, and so I could pretty much match him, and our voices blended well together. And so that's whenever I really think my singing career launched.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. What are some of the biggest influences for you as far as music goes? I know you're a country musician. Is there any influences in your life that really motivated you?
I grew up listening to George Strait. I remember, in the mid-'80s, I had a cassette tape player in my. I had a 1976 Chevrolet Silverado, and it had a cassette player in it. And I had every George Strait cassette tape there was, I think. And I would always listen to George Strait, and I just loved George Strait's voice, his music. He had some great writers that really, they wrote some great songs, and he sung them and performed them well. And so, yeah, I definitely am a George Strait. I love Johnny Cash, Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, all those guys. So, yeah, a lot of influences there.
Yeah, it sounds like it, especially George Strait. I remember liking his music too when I was younger. So,
absolutely.
And I know that you have a couple CDs out there. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of that?
I do, Paul. I went to Nashville in 2016. It was September the 11th. Isn't that a crazy day for me to take a plane, huh? I didn't even realize it when I booked the flight that it was going to be September 11th, but I did. I took the flight, and I went to Nashville, and I met with members of Ronnie Milsap's band. Guy's name is John Heinrich. He's currently on tour with Ronnie Milsap. He picked me up at the airport, and he was very, very good to me. He took me from the hotel room every morning and took me to the studio, and we worked many hours. And the result is this album right here. It's called Country My Way. There's 10 songs on this album. And sad thing happened, Paul, to me back in 2007. I lost a brother. And he was a lineman for Encore. And he loved his work. He was very good at his work. But one day he had an accident on the job and was fatally injured. And so I've always loved Glenn Campbell and his music. And so I decided, in honor of my brother and also to honor Glenn Campbell, that I would record Glenn Campbell's Wichita Lineman. And so if you open this album up, there is a picture of my brother actually on the job. He's up on a power line and doing some work up there, trying to get the power back on. And so that picture is on the inside of this, and it's very near and dear to my heart to sing Wichita Lineman. And since I did lose my brother in that way, I've really sung it from my heart. And a lot of people say that it's one of the better recordings of that song that they've ever heard, besides, of course, Glenn Campbell's version. It's pretty hard to beat that. But anyway, so I was proud to do that for my family and for my brother, to honor him, his life and legacy.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear about your brother, by the way. So, and speaking of your album that you were just talking about, there's a song on there called No Tellin', and I think that's a song we're going to listen to in just a minute.
Yes.
Is there a story behind that song?
Yeah, there is. I'm glad you asked, Paul. I was singing in the care center one day, and there was a gentleman in there that he really loved the way he loved to hear me sing. He loved my voice. And he asked me, he said, "Do you know any Lefty Frizzell songs?" And I said, "Yes, I do. Which one would you like for me to sing?" And he said, "I don't care. They're all good. Just sing one of them." So I did. I sang a Lefty song, and I got done, and and he clapped and applauded very loudly, and everybody else did. And so I packed up my gear after the end of the show, and I was headed out the door, and one of the staff members came and said, "Hey, Craig, can you come back inside and talk to this guy? He wants to talk to you. He said he's a songwriter." So I went back inside, and they took me to Aubrey Freeman's room. And now Aubrey at the time was about 90 or 91 years old. And he started telling me a little bit about himself. And he said, "I was a barber all my life in Richardson, Texas." And he said, "I used to cut Lefty Frizzell's hair. He was one of my customers." And he said, I'm a songwriter, and he said, "I wrote a lot of songs, and I would discuss them with Lefty as I was cutting his hair." And Lefty says, "Oh, I love that. I want to record that." So Lefty ended up recording and performing a lot of the songs that Aubrey wrote. And anyway, Aubrey, he's in a retirement home now, and I think he's about 94, 95 now. But I couldn't believe it. I pulled out my phone instantly, and I Googled his name, Paul. And it was all legit. Everything he was telling me, he really did. And he wrote the song Optimistic for Skeeter Davis. And Aubrey Freeman's a legend. He's a legendary songwriter. He's the real deal. And I was proud that he offered, to give me some of his songs to record. He asked me, would you record some of my songs that I've written? I've got some that nobody's recorded, and I love your voice. I'd love for you to record some of my songs. So what an honor to get to do that for him. And he really helped me a lot with my career by doing that for me. And No Tellin' Where She's Motelin' is a song that he wrote. He co-wrote it with a guy named Bob Bishop. And Paul, this is really interesting too. In 2017, I was nominated by the Academy of Western Artists in 3 categories. It was Song of the Year, and that was the No Tellin' Where She's Motelin'. So Song of the Year. Album of the Year, which again is this Country My Way, and Male Vocalist of the Year. Well, Bob Bishop, again, he's the co-writer. He and Aubrey Freeman co-wrote No Tellin' Where She's Motelin'. Bob lived in Nashville, and he was so excited when he heard about the nomination. He said, wow, he said, I'm going to fly to Texas. I'm going to be there on the night of the dinner and the awards. I want to be there. And I said, that's great. And so, but sadly, Paul, he passed away. He had some health problems, and he passed away just a few months before the awards ceremony. So I was very sad about that he didn't get to come. But anyway, that was just really amazing to be nominated in those 3 categories with the Academy of Western Artists. So I'm very proud to be a part of that organization.
Well, that's good. That's a very high honor, I guess, to be nominated for those categories, and I'm glad that you were. Did you ever win any of those categories, or were you just simply nominated? Or
I was nominated, but no, there were some other entertainers that won in those categories. So of course, I was there to congratulate them on their win, and they deserved it, obviously, or they wouldn't have won. But wow, just to be nominated was an honor for me, and I hope that someday that I'll get other nominations for my singing and for my songs and such.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all we need, really, Craig. We appreciate you coming on the show, and we'd love to have you back sometime. So maybe you can do that for us.
I would love to, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. And here's that song, No Tellin', from Craig Murphy right now on Paul Mash TV. Don't go away.
She was my baby, my sweet loving baby. I thought we had a good thing going on. With very little warning, I woke up this morning to find my sweet baby was gone. But I don't know what she's doing or who she's pursuing. I know she could be out there on the town. My baby could be dancing, or maybe she's romancing that great new lover she has found. She left me a note, she wanted to be free. She wanted to be a long ways from me. I'm looking all around me, she's nowhere inside. There ain't no telling where she's motelling tonight. There ain't no telling where she's motelling. I know my baby ain't no saint.
You ain't no saint.
There ain't no telling where she's motelling. I don't know where she is, but I know where she ain't. Could be the Holiday Inn out on the edge of town, or the Motel
looking all around me, she's nowhere